Hi guys. Yes, first of all, kind of thanks to Nick and Andy for the stories, because it's always great to see the amazing work that our partners are doing and the impact that it has on those low-income households, and especially a lot of that stuff that Andy just said there really went into some depth, and there's some really interesting stuff there. So I think today what I was planning on doing is going through what Nick and Andy's process might have looked like, pulling out some key points. And one of the key things that I picked up from what's been said so far was that there's different levels of vulnerability across these households and different levels of support that is required. So some of them need a short-term boost, some of them need employment support and benefit maximisation, and some, just need to get through to the other side of COVID. And that's kind of what we're going to go through today and focus on a few key parts. Thanks, Janet. So if we just start with kind of what Nick was talking about before, he did mention that kind of, there was £150 council tax reduction for everyone, which, was a fantastic kind of piece of support in the short term. And then, we mentioned that in the long run, those who are kind of unemployed would still be unemployed, but, there are some of those people that do only need that short-term boost. We also had the discretionary housing payments campaign, which again, a fantastic tool, sometimes literally a lifesaver for certain households, and is kind of focused on that short-term support. But that did actually allow for kind of Folkestone and Hyde to clear off some of those arrears before the new year, provides that kind of short-term boost to those families' income, and potentially see you through those tough times. And what we've been seeing is that countless times during these conversations with the local authorities that we work with, and the housing associations, the citizens' advice as well, is that this new cohort of people that were maybe once self-sufficient, self-employed, running a business, kind of had that financial resilience and were able to support themselves, now through no fault of their own have kind of a low financial resilience. And we're trying to just either give them kind of the long-term support to maximise the benefits and mean that they can be seen through this period, or for some of them it's just about getting to the other side of COVID, because if we can get to that and the world can open up again as it should do, then those people might then be able to support themselves kind of moving forward. So what I've got here is just an example, and what I was thinking as we were going through was that these will probably be examples that Nick and Andy, it's how they may have done it, but from what they've said, I think this is probably exactly how they've done it. So we've got here we've just identified those people who are in council tax arrears, are in crisis, meaning they don't have enough income to cover their housing costs, and haven't received a discretionary housing payment this financial year. So as an example on there, that would be the people that we could work with. And then, as Nick was saying before, you can drill down further into those, kind of however you wish, into which cohort you think is most vital to work with first. Thanks, Janet. And Nick was also mentioning, I'll come on to kind of Andy's points in a moment, but if we keep with Nick for a moment, that Folkestone and Hyde ran a pension credit campaign, had a 30% take up, which is absolutely fantastic for those households, and by definition is kind of a more stable long-term solution to improving financial resilience. And it targets one of those key vulnerable COVID groups as well. These households who have had more income and been able to pay off any arrears may have afford their gas and electric and all the other benefits that come with being able to do that. And from Nick's point of view and Folkestone's point of view, they would be able to identify that cohort pretty much through one click through the Lift dashboard, but then would be able to delve into those further. As he said before, if they came down to a caseload of 1,200 people, they might want to drill down further into a specific group. And that's kind of what this page is about here. Thanks, Janet. And what I just wanted to show you on this one as well is that if Nick was to drill down further into that pension credit cohort that we identified on kind of the last page, that you would then be able to look at those maybe with council tax arrears or rent arrears or any other factor that he wanted to look into. But I know that one of the key focuses he mentioned earlier was clearing off those arrears before the new year. So if there is any circumstances where those pensioners did have any arrears, that would be a good place to start. It's just one way to kind of look at that. Thanks, Janet. And then the next 2 pages that you're going to see are just kind of how we track the outcomes of the work that teams like Rotherham and Folkestone and Hyde and some of the others have done. Enables you to track the results over time, to see the financial and social impacts of the work that you've done, and actually provide some kind of return on investment, but return on the amount of work and resource that you're putting into something and how it's actually impacted those household lives. And I think that's kind of a really important thing to be able to look back on and be able to count. And just kind of the same for the next one, but showing kind of, you know, again in Nick's example, we're looking at which groups within the cohort have moved from, for example, in arrears to not in arrears in Nick's case. And, you know, with the DHP campaign, we could look at how many people have been able to be moved out of arrears by the kind of the new financial year, and you know, that will put the council in a better stead. Thanks very much, Janet. And now kind of if I just move on to sort of some of the stuff that Rotherham was saying and Andy pointed out. Again, it's all about ensuring that the residents are in the best financial position possible, which is, you know, there's a few ways to do it. And the first and the main point of the webinar today is kind of income maximisation. So through the calculator that Rotherham have been using, they'll be able to say, you know, these are all the benefits that the individual should be receiving, and there's a quick and easy way to apply for them. But also you're able to change those scenarios. So we have a few scenarios here in the on the slides, but I know that Andy was talking about some other ones that, you know, that they did. The lady with blanking on exactly what the scenario was that Andy was mentioning before, but be able to change those scenarios to whatever they wish and see what the impact of changing the hours was. I think it was the childcare costs, and see, you know, and just evidence to people that that is the situation now and how it will change moving forward. On to the next one, if that's okay, Janet. Yeah, and then another point that was kind of key to mention is that the customer's costs. So again, it's what Andy was pointing out about. We can say that compared with similar households with a similar makeup, we can say, you know, these households could be making these savings. We know what their budget is, we've input that. It's important to income maximise for these households, but if we can minimise expenditure where possible, especially if it's stuff like alcohol and smoking, and then of course Andy mentioned, you know, we're able to signpost those people to other services as well to work with, you know, to help with those issues and kind of move into, you know, not only a financially better position, but a better position kind of with a wider picture. Thanks, Janet. And then, yeah, we were saying again about this same lady in terms of going into work, not only with the changes to childcare costs, but one of the biggest factors and the biggest feedback that we get from employment teams and welfare support teams, that if we try to encourage people back into work, they're often off put by the fact that they'll lose their universal credit. They feel that they may end up with less money, and we're able to say, no, here's, you know, for every pound and pence that you earn more or you do more hours, this is how, you know, what the change will be, how your universal credit and net earnings will be affected. And it gives that customer the confidence to go back into employment. And I think that after COVID, when there's going to be kind of a lot of people searching for work, whilst probably in receipt of benefits, because we've seen those UC numbers go up so hugely, this kind of capability will be absolutely crucial for those households. And then on to the next one, Janet. And then I think that just one last thing to mention, that a lot of local authorities and housing associations have found absolutely crucial is the self-serve calculator. So we know that, and I've mentioned a few times, this new cohort of people that are new to the benefit system. They've kind of never had to claim before, but have, for the most part, been capable enough to do that. And I know that a lot of the organisations have said, you know, for those who are capable, if we can get them to do this calculation themselves, apply through, you know, the links that are on the calculator, and, you know, improve their financial resilience and their income, that's fantastic. We've helped them, but they've been able to support themselves, which gives us more time to focus on that one-to-one support with the most vulnerable, to sit down with those cases, again, as Andy was mentioning, with the very specific situations that you want to work through on a one-to-one basis, and provide the confidence for those people to make a change. So, you know, these are just some of the things that I wanted to pick out today, and I think they were relevant to the points that Nick and Andy said. I'd love to go through this in more depth. Unfortunately, we've only had kind of a limited amount of time, but if anyone does want to set up a meeting, feel free to kind of just drop us a note and we can arrange that. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening.